So about a year ago, Saad, who I've talked about in some recent videos, great public intellectual and professor from Montreal, was on Joe Rogan's podcast, and they were talking about Islam and Judaism, and they said some things about the Jewish people. One of them went viral, and it's in this clip about how many Jews there are in the world. But I want to play you this snippet of conversation, and then talk about it, because I think in it there is the secret to what makes the Jews as strong as they are, or what makes the state of Israel as strong as it is. So let's watch the clip, and then I have something to say about it. Here we go.
Islam is the only religion that I'm aware of. I mean, maybe there's more that I'm just ignorant to, where if you leave the religion, they can kill you.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's what God wants. God wants you to die because you don't believe in him anymore.
Well, I've always said that Islam is the perfect memeplex. So are you familiar with that term, memeplex?
No.
You know? So a meme is a term that Richard Dawkins coined in his book in 1976, Selfish Gene. Thank you. Where he was analogizing the idea of a gene. Genes propagate, correct? Well, memes are packets of information that spread from one brain to another. And so memes also spread. We are both a biological and a cultural animal, right? Both our genes spread and our ideas spread. So a meme is something that can go. So if you read my books, I am infecting your brain with my memes, with my ideas, correct? A library is a collection of memes. So a memeplex is a collection of memes that in this case falls under a religious ideology. Well, Islam is the perfect memeplex in what sense? In that its contents are made to spread. For example, Judaism. You mentioned earlier Judaism. Do you know how many Jews there are in the world? Not
12.
to put you on the spot. 12 what?
No, I don't know. I'm just taking a guess.
You want to take just not to put you on the spot.
Okay, let me think.
How many?
There's 7 billion people in the world.
Yes.
I would guess there would be somewhere in the neighborhood of 1 billion Jews.
1 billion. Jamie, you want to take
Maybe
a crack?
500 million. Maybe I'm gonna take a very conservative guess. I'm gonna change it to 500 million.
I'm so glad that we did this. You're going to be shocked.
How many?
There's somewhere between 13 to 15 million Jews.
That is more than that in New York.
No.
You're out of your fucking mind.
No, just look it up.
Shut the mic off. This guy's talking crazy. He's an agent.
I'm a Zionist shill.
Really?
Let Jamie now do his little Google magic.
13 to 15 million? That's
13
crazy.
to 15 million.
There's more idiots in America than there are Jews.
And that's only in Arkansas. No, I'm just kidding. Sorry, guys. I'm just joking.
Is that really it?
Yeah.
Well, think about how many Nobel Prize winners are Jews.
I think 25 to 30%.
It's incredible.
Right. And that, by the way, some people will say there's a genetic element, but even if...
Here we go. What do we got? 14,200,000
Did I just
Jewish
say between
people in the
13 and
world.
15 million?
That's insane.
Always perfectly accurate.
What is the enlarged? What does that mean? Okay, so the world, the largest number possible is 20 million. You know, that's like given...
I've never seen 20 million. It's usually the highest I've seen is 16 million.
It says core Jewish and enlarged Jewish. What is that? Like dudes who get converted because their wife makes them?
I don't know.
My uncle did that.
But by strict conversion laws, that would not be allowed. You're not allowed to convert for ulterior motives.
What ulterior motives? He wanted to become a Jew.
No, it has to be spiritual. It's a spiritual awakening.
Well, he went through the whole process. He went to Hebrew school.
But that process has to be for no ulterior motive. It can't be because my wife would not marry me otherwise.
Well, I think he did it because she wanted him to do it, and then he decided to do it because it was what, you know. I mean... I get it.
But anyways, let's go back. So there are about 13 to 15 million Jews. There are 1.6 billion Muslims.
Whoa.
1/5 of humanity. To every one Jew, there's 100 Muslims. Which ideology is more successful based on propagation, Islam or Judaism? Right? Now, why is that? Well, take, for example, conversion laws. As you said about, was it your cousin?
No, my uncle.
Your uncle. In the way that he did it, as you said, it's a very assiduous process. It takes a long time before, and as a matter of fact, the rabbis are supposed to try to dissuade you from converting to Judaism because that, in a sense, tests your faith, your desire to change. In Islam, do you know what you have to do to convert?
What?
I won't say it because if I actually say it in Arabic, that
then
could be taken.
Converted.
I've converted, and therefore, if I leave it. but basically you just have to say the shahada, which it's like the I testify.
Wow, that's it?
It's a one sentence.
And then that's it. Bam.
Boom, you're in.
And then if you leave, they
You're
kill
dead.
you.
In Judaism, there isn't that.
Ooh.
How about laws for marriage? A Muslim man can marry up to 4 women, including non-Muslim women, and convert them, but a Muslim woman cannot do the other way around. So the whole structure of Islam is built on the propagation of the belief system. So just by that, which one is going to be more dangerous? One is a proselytizing religion. The other one, you're not allowed to, in Judaism, to proselytize. You're not supposed to try to convert others. In Islam, da'wah is to proselytize. You have to. Now, in different countries, they'll do it in different ways. In the West, where they are in the minority, they'll do it through interfaith exchanges. But the interfaith exchanges are always the Muslim telling the non-Muslim how great our religion is and why you should convert. It's never give and take. So just going back to your earlier point about Israel and so on, yes, of course, undoubtedly, there are some Israelis that do very bad things to their non-Jewish brothers, no question. But when we're talking about existential threats to our Western ways, you and I probably don't stay up worrying about radical Jews. So.
No, I don't. I wonder what it is about people that makes us so susceptible to ideological thinking. And whether or not it's ever expungible, whether or not it's ever something that we can eradicate from the thought process. It just seems inherent to being a person. So much so that I recognize it in myself. Like, here's a perfect example. I ran into a guy just a few days ago, and he said hello to me, and then he explained to me that he trains jiu-jitsu with the Machados, and immediately we were like brothers, because that's my lineage.
Yeah, right.
So it's like, oh, what's up, man? Like, immediately. And I'm like, that is so weird. It's so weird. Like, I understand, like, when I talk to someone like, oh, how long you trained? 12 years. Oh, okay. So you understand me and I understand you. Where do you train? Machados. Oh, we come from the same thing.
Right.
Oh, we're like brothers. There's a weird thing. Like, I'd give that guy a ride. I don't even know him. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But that's the case with religion. That's the case with many things. It's the case with ethnicities. Oftentimes even with state pride. Like, we branch off into groups, and we have micro groups and macro groups, and it gets real weird when we do this, but we all do it.
So, to speak exactly about this ever granular way to compartmentalize us versus them, let me mention the Hasidic story.
Oh yeah, please do.
Because the reason that's a good segue is because I actually raised it with him on the plane. I used to live in an area in Montreal called Outremont. For the Montrealers out there, they'll know where it is, where there are a lot of Hasidic Jews. So now you would think that within this very small group of people called Jews, within an even smaller group of people called Hasidic Orthodox Jews, once you're an Orthodox Jew, you're an Orthodox Jew. No. On this side of the street are the Polish Orthodox Jews. On this side of the street are the Hungarian Orthodox Jews. And I wouldn't be caught dead marrying my daughter to those heathen pigs from the other side of the street. Right? So in other words, our ability to create us versus them distinctions, as you said, is infinite. That's what, by the way, I hate most about religion. And not only Islam, right? Certainly every Abrahamic religion has a very clear delineation between us and them. If we are Christians, we're going to heaven. The rest of you who haven't accepted Jesus are going to hell. If you are Jewish, there are the Jews and there are the Goys, right? The Gentiles. If you are Muslim, of course, there are us Muslim believers and all of you kuffar, right? And so it's an inherent part of Abrahamic faith to play on this very innate mechanism of tribalism, us versus them. It's great.
Okay. I found this absolutely fascinating, gotta say. I thought it was really, really something. Because you go back to what Rogan said about meeting a guy who trained in the same school of jiu-jitsu as him and how he immediately felt close to him and felt that they understand each other. He'd give him a ride. Jews feel that way, right? Any of the Jews watching, you're sitting on an airplane, sitting next to someone, there's another Jew, you're somewhere, but you only really feel that way, or you feel that way even more even more when you're in an area where there aren't a lot of Jews. You see, if everyone was training on Machado Jiu-Jitsu, Rogan wouldn't feel that way. Okay, so a lot of it has to do with percentage, with the granularity, as he called it, of a piece of your identity or something that's important to you that happens to be a very small subset, and you meet other people of that subset, so you feel a greater kinship, which would not apply with so many people, which leads to a comment about something that has bothered me for a long time. So I work in the field of Jewish-Christian relations. Most of you by now know that. If you're still just getting to know me, my main career for the last more than a decade has been interfaith work, Jewish-Christian relations, interfacing with Christian churches and Christian seminaries and Christian leadership, and building that bridge between Jewish and Christian communities. It's a space I've operated in. I've gotten more into political messaging only in the last couple of years. And it's always bothered me that Christians around the world don't care enough about the persecution of Christians. I've raised this issue with many Christian leaders, and they acknowledge it. The Christians just don't feel that sense of kinship with other Christians around the world in the same way that Jews do. Like with Jews, a few Jews, a couple of Jews get killed somewhere, or a couple of Jews get kidnapped somewhere, like when those 3 young boys were kidnapped by terrorists in Israel a bunch of years ago, and it sparked a war. But all over the world, all Jewish communities are having prayer vigils, and they're raising funds, and they're mobilized. Okay, so, and I always thought of this as something that's uniquely Jewish, but it really has to do with size. That's what I think. It has to do with size. And among Christians, a Christian community in Nigeria could get massacred, and the Christian world is not all up in arms, even if they see it in the paper. They don't feel that same tug of concern that we feel. And I think I think it has to do a fair amount, not entirely. I'm going to get into a few other issues here, but I think it has a lot to do with size of the group that you're in. Now, what he said, what Saad said about the Orthodox Jews, the Hungarians and the Poles, I would never let my daughter marry that heathen. They wouldn't call them heathens. Just understand, it's not a theological issue. There are some very, within the Hasidic groups particularly, there's some real particularity about, which group you're in and who marries who, and that has a lot to do with family customs and things like that. But there is a general kinship that Jews feel with each other all around the world, a strength. So if a Jew gets, like the Bondi Beach attacks happen in Australia, some Jews got killed, Jews everywhere feel that pain. And now let's move to the state of Israel. State of Israel, you might think, well, there's millions of Jews here. You won't feel that same way, but we do, because for centuries and centuries, the fact that there were so few Jews in the world meant that Jews have always felt that sense of kinship with each other, traveling from place to place, bumping into another Jew, being aware of other Jews in other places. There's always been this sense of being this tiny minority who's embattled, and we have this connection and this bond with other Jews. And that's what creates this sense of family, this sense of blood relation, even for people who've converted in. It's not about blood, really. It's about being a part of this very small group everywhere in the world. So Jews have always felt this. This is why, for interesting historical note, one of the big reasons why Jews got into the money changing business, and why they were frequently all over Europe the money changers, is that currencies and items of value came from other parts of the world, and you could not necessarily trust people. But since Jews trusted each other inherently, implicitly Jews trusted each other all over the world. If Jews were transferring the money, Jewish money changers tended to trust each other. It's one of the reasons. Now, I'm bringing this up because of the state of Israel. You have people, millions of people, Jews gathered in from all the four corners of the earth in this land, lived all over the place. And they feel the sense of kinship that they've inherited as a culture. At this point, after thousands of years of exile, after centuries, this is part of the culture of being Jewish, this concern for other Jews, this special feeling that you feel when you encounter other Jews. So you have a whole country that has a social cohesion that is, I don't know if it's unique, but it is tangible. You come to Israel, and the sense of concern that people have for each other in the society, and that goes to how people feel. Like, if on the front page of the paper it says that there's a soldier who was killed, everyone feels the pain. Everyone feels that sense of mourning. It's real. It's really tangible. Talk to any Israeli, talk to any Jew, they'll tell you that. So I believe that the fact that the people of Israel have been such a tiny people, and by the way, the Bible says that we are the smallest of all peoples, the least of all peoples. I was thinking about that when Joe Rogan was shocked at how few Jews there are in the world, that in the book of Deuteronomy, in Deuteronomy chapter 7, I believe verse 7, it says that we are the least of all peoples, right? Moses says that to the people of Israel, you're the smallest of all peoples. And even though he wasn't necessarily uttering a prophecy for the future, that has turned out to be the case. We're less than half of 1% of the world's population. If there was a pie chart of the world's population, we don't even make it onto the pie chart. It's too small a sliver, less than half of 1%. If you're doing research, you might not even include a variable like that. But that, I believe, based on everything I've been saying, is actually the source of that powerful social cohesion that we have in Israel, that we have in the Jewish people, which gives us such strength globally and in the nation of Israel, and that itself gives us the strength to fight and to fight wars. When we look at the courage and the prowess of the Israeli army, and I think a lot of this has to do with how Jews view each other, and built on the fact that we are such a tiny people. So, and there's more to say about this clip, but I really wanted to share this because a lot of people wonder, what's the source of Jewish strength? What's the source of that ability to survive? And I think, ironically, like I'm saying, a lot of it has to do with the fact that we are such a small people. So we feel that sense of bond and kinship with each other. Hope this made some sense. Hope you found it interesting. If so, please drop me a comment. Please share this. Please subscribe to the channel. And as always, please go check out all the great content that we're putting up at Israel 365 News YouTube channel. God bless.